I mean, Trevor Bauer's pitched 6-7 years in the big league, so technically, yeah, he fits. So it literally can mean whatever.
I think that's the name that everyone is kind of thinking it is, and I mean, like, that makes sense. And with Divish's comments that he thinks that Dipoto is going to go after Trevor Bauer, I mean, we've talked about it a lot, and we talked about this even right before we hit record. There's a really good argument for it, and there's a really good argument against it.
Yeah.
I think you look at, the argument for it, and we're probably going to talk a lot about Trevor Bauer, who was fantastic, by the way, today against the Braves. We're going to talk about him a lot until he signs with someone within the next few months. But, with the way that he's adapted to kind of this new age of pitching, and how pitching has started to be looked at over especially the last 5 years, he's really kind of been one of the poster boys of that. And he seems pretty involved in the rest of his rotation, whichever rotation that he's in, and helping guys, even helping guys that are not teammates of his. He helped out Yusei Kikuchi in 2019, and met with him before one of their games. I think it was like April or something like that. It was really early on, but he seems to be a guy that truly cares about his teammates and other pitchers and kind of lifting them up. So I think for that reason, that's a great fit, right? That's a great fit, especially for this clubhouse. But then there is the side of him that is very outspoken, might be a Trump supporter. I mean, he was back in 2016. He hasn't really said anything like that recently.
And he's passive aggressive and sometimes childish.
Yes.
And that's
he's like kind of like Barstool Sports embodied in a person.
Yuck.
Yeah.
And that's a great argument against it right there. To me,
yeah.
Bauer, all that stuff plays like fine so long as he's pitching well. What happens if you give this guy a contract and he's a high effort guy? He's not out there with the smooth, easy delivery, just kind of lobbing 94 out there. He really puts a lot of strain on his body thanks to his pitching style. What happens if you give him a 4-year deal, 5-year deal or whatever, and he's fine for 2 years, and then he starts to break down, and then is his attitude going to change? Probably not. And I know he says he only wants a 1-year deal and all that stuff, but that's another strike against him. If we're being honest, why would the Mariners sign him for a 1-year deal if they could just sign him next offseason when they're going to be even closer to competing? So I mean, like I said, Bauer is one of those. I used the example today. There was a time, I think it was 2012, 2013, I want to say. Maybe it was a little bit sooner than that. But do you remember there was the stories that Jack Zarenzik was courting Josh Hamilton, and the Mariners basically had the second best offer, and it was a toss-up, and Hamilton ended up going to the Angels. And it's an example I use that because as a Mariners fan who watches him on a daily basis and knows how good Josh Hamilton was and how good he was at the time, it was hard not to get excited over that idea of, man, getting to watch Josh Hamilton every single day. That's going to be so much fun. But in the back of your head, or at least in the back of my head, I'm sitting there going, they're going to have to overpay him to do it. He does have this history. He's complained about, I can't hit during the day because I have blue eyes or whatever that nonsense was. Kind of makes excuses. I mean, and again, the history. And so it's one of those things that every time I talk about a player like that, it's kind of this, I call it the Josh Hamilton effect. I mean, it's this heart says, oh, that's fun. That's awesome. He's going to make us better. But in the back of your head, you go, there's a lot of red flags here that I'm just going to ignore because I want to watch him. I want my favorite team to have a player that's fun to watch, so Bauer falls into that camp for me. For some people, he doesn't.
Right.
And I get it for those people. but for me, he certainly does. And, you know, whether we want it to or not, that social media stuff and the Trump stuff and the outspoken political stuff, that does matter. That does play in a clubhouse. And
it does. And this is the worst clubhouse for him to be in to do that, because they have by far the most black players in their clubhouse. They've been very outspoken about Black Lives Matter and all the social injustice stuff that's been going on. They were one of the few teams that did protest and not play a game. When that was all going on. So
I don't think, like, just want to be clear about something here. We're not calling Trevor Bauer a racist. We're not saying he can't fit in here because Seattle has, you know,
he hasn't said anything racist as far as I'm aware. He's just been a Trump supporter, so you kind of assume that he might say something that could rub guys the wrong way.
And he's been quiet this year. I mean, again, I haven't seen him speak out on anything about the Black Lives Matter stuff. At least I haven't seen it personally. I don't follow him on social media or anything.
No, he kind of stayed away from it. I watched his vlog when they, because remember the Brewers protested. They were the first team to protest, and they were playing the Reds that day. He just kind of didn't say anything about it. In his vlog, he just kind of said like, "Oh yeah, you know, they postponed the game because of the social injustice stuff," and that was just kind of it. He didn't address it.
But the fact that he didn't even address it though is also kind of a red flag. Like, you can't run from this, man. I mean, like, I get it. Like, he doesn't want to say something worse. He thinks saying something bad is worse than saying something at all. But that means he has something bad to say about it, or something that's not popular to say about it. And I do have legitimate concerns about how that plays in a clubhouse that has Kyle Lewis, Justice Sheffield, Justin Dunn, Shed Long, Marco Gonzalez,
JP
Crawford. Mitch Haniger's been very outspoken about these things.
How many white people are on the? How many white players are there on the Mariners? Actually, now that I think about it, Evan White, Anthony Misevich, Ty France, Kyle Seager.
I'm not trying to racially break down this team or anything, but no, it's
I know, but like I'm just legitimately though, this is a very multicultural team,
right?
So,
I mean, again, I don't know the breakdown of Cleveland or Cincinnati and how their rosters were composed, and again, I'm not calling Trevor Bauer a racist. By all accounts, his teammates all love him. So, I mean, clearly he treats them well and with respect in the clubhouse.
He seems like going back real quick to the him not addressing it.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like he at least has the discipline enough that if he does have something bad to say, that he can keep his mouth shut.
He can read the room.
Say it. Right. Yeah.
Right. But again, that's still a problem for me, at least. For me, it's a problem, and it might be a problem for these guys. And I'll tell you what, if Kyle Lewis is uncomfortable with Trevor Bauer being in your clubhouse, you don't even bring him in for anything. You don't call his agent, nothing. No. Your team has to be 100% behind the decision to bring in Trevor Bauer, and maybe they are, because, again, Bauer has a really good reputation amongst the players, unless you play for Houston. So, I mean, he's just such a weird dude.
Do you think that would also play into his decision to come to Seattle to pitch against Houston?
Yeah, it might.
Multiple times.
Absolutely, it might. To me, again, I'm not going to sit here and, because if Trevor Bauer signs with the Mariners, of course I'm going to break it down fairly. I'm going to break it down. This is what it means for the rotation. This is what it means for their win total. Blah blah.
And admitted, you're probably going to get a little excited. Oh yeah, because he is good.
He's fun. He's fun to watch. He's, like I said, he is a quirky dude. But I can't ignore the outspokenness, the sometimes flat out childish nature of how he responds to people on social media. And that's just not what the Mariners are building right now.
That was a clip from one of the main episodes of the Control the Zone podcast, airing every Wednesday on our Patreon. Just $3 a month gets you access to this episode and every other main episode of our show, and you can get even more CTZ by becoming a tier 2 or 3 patron for $5 and $10 a piece to hear separate tier exclusive episodes on Monday and view our frequently updated top 60 Mariners prospect list. Visit patreon.com/control the zone for more information.